excited about Journey, and I hope you are too. If you haven't been before, please do come. We do want you to invite, but we need to be praying over it as well. The things that Bill shared is important. After the last service, I was asked by two different people about other ones going on. I said, hey, do you know other people are doing this? And yes, we do. Over the years, when we started this, it just came up with the name and the function of it. We have shared this with many, many churches across the country and in other countries as well. The one over in Illinois came a few years back and walked through our rehearsals with us. We shared everything with them and gave them the script and said there's lots of people in the St. Louis area that need to hear this. And so we've shared it with many, many different places, and it's great because the story needs to be told. And so you pray not only for ours, but others that are going on around the country, that people will hear the message of Jesus. It's just exciting stuff going on. I hope you're part of it, the work days, serving, jumping in, helping. Last weekend, Nakoma shared a great message, encourages all to reach out, greet the people around you. Have you been kind today? Some of you have, some of you haven't been. Okay, be kind after the service. Reach out, even if you're a visitor, say hi and nice things to people around you. Get to know people, reach out. But we also ask that you would just jump in and say, hey, I'm willing to serve. So as you leave these doors, if you go in towards the middle area, there's a display set up that just has these say yes tags. Just drop over and say, yes, I'll serve. I want to reach out. I want to honor God by loving on people around me. And there's all kinds of greeting ministries outside the building, inside the building that we do every weekend, as well as children's ministry, production teams, so many things you could do. So encourage you, just keep thinking about how can I serve and honor God in that way. We want you to be involved. A couple weeks ago, we took up a special offering. And this offering was an extra one above our regular tithes that we give to our community, and it's at our Thanksgiving time. I want you to know that our Thanks Equals Giving offering came in just over $75,000 that you gave. Isn't that incredible? That's an incredible gift that when we all come together, and that is going to be used to bless St. Charles County, reaching out around over the next year with benevolence and loving on people going through difficult times. So thank you for being so generous to that. Not only all of our missionary partners we share with, but just the people here in our community with needs. So we thank you. So we come into Christmas time. Yesterday we not only had a Journey work day, but we also had our angel breakfast, which is one of the things that Gene and I love to join and participate in. And all these little children and their parents, the preschoolers come together and they have their breakfast and the angels show up, and this time they put on little costumes, they get to act out the Christmas story, but it's just a very special, sweet time. We like angels, and Christmas stories have angels, and Hallmark stories have angels. It amazes me how many people talk about angels who don't believe in God at all, but they love angels who are messengers of God. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But they love the angels, and one of our favorite Christmas stories of all time, Christmas movies, is It's a Wonderful Life. Seen that? So, yeah, okay, some of you like it. Okay, so it starts out with, here's George Bailey in Bedford Falls, New York, Christmas Eve, 1945, and he's on the bridge. He's ready to jump off the bridge and end his life. Sounds like a great story, and some of you love that. All right, it's depressing, it's sad, it's hard. He's at the end of his life because he has lost all hope. There's nothing else left that he can see. There's nothing else there, but wonderful thing happens is this angel apprentice in training, his name is Clarence, his last name is Oddbody. Now you learned something today, all right. Aren't you just amazed what you can learn today in church? Clarence Oddbody is sent down to help George regain his hope of this Christmas spirit, and also if he does well, he gets to earn his wings, and we know he gets his wings when you hear the little, yeah, that's right, that's a terrible theology, all right? That is absolutely not in the Bible at all. Angels are in the Bible, but not that stuff. Okay, well anyway, so the story goes along, he gets his hope restored, but his hope restored is in the people around, and the people around us demonstrate God's grace, but that's not the real hope of Christmas. The real hope of Christmas is this incredible gift of God that he brings to each one of us. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start today in the book of Luke, chapter 1, We're going to read it, and we're going to walk through the next month, the Christmas story from the Gospel of Luke. And then we're going to continue the Gospel of Luke into next year, and we're going to take it all the way up to Easter as we just study who Jesus, Messiah, our gift from heaven is, and what that means to each one of us, and how are we to be followers of him. But Luke chapter 1, we pick up this story, and want to give a little bit of a setting. It's been a very difficult time for the country of Israel. Very painful time. It's been 400 years since the last time they heard a message from God. The last time was from the prophet Malachi, and so it's been hundreds of years, and they've been getting words and direction, and there's been nothing at all. They've been promised a Messiah has been coming, but their life has been very difficult. In fact, the last several decades have been very, very bloody and painful and hard for the nation. Particularly since this new king came in to rule. His name was Herod, and it's just such a hard time. And I wonder how many times that people pray throughout their entire life and say, God, when is this Messiah coming? And then we get to look at this young couple, or rather old couple. Their name is Zechariah and Elizabeth. We don't know how old they are, but in the Bible times, especially New Testament times, we began around their age 60, you were called the older people. Kind of we look at it that way today too. So they were somewhere well beyond the age of 60, and they had been praying as well. And there was a darkness in their life that they carried also. So let's begin reading here in Luke chapter 1, beginning with verse number 5. In the time of King Herod, king of Judea, there was a priest named Zechariah, who belonged to the priestly division of Abijah. His wife Elizabeth was also a descendant of Aaron. Both of them were upright in the sight of God, observing all the Lord's commandments and regulations blamelessly. But they had no children, because Elizabeth was barren, and they were both well along in years. Now it's interesting, this Christmas story begins with this old couple. And I think of all the people that God could have used to begin his Christmas story, you think there's people, how would we choose that? We would choose somebody really important, somebody significant. Maybe start with the religious leaders of the day who had all the pomp and circumstance around them. Or maybe we start with some political leaders and shake up the whole system. Or we at least start with someone with a lot of influence, but he doesn't. He begins with this old couple. And then we see him using this teenage girl and her fiance, a carpenter, and we see him using these stargazers from another place that aren't even part of the Jewish clan of people at all. We see him using these humble, smelly shepherds who are uneducated out on the hillside. We see him using just ordinary, plain people. In our lives, we have those times where we wonder, how is God ever going to work through this? And in the time when you're wondering about hope and purpose and meaning, just a simple phrase, because of Christmas, there is hope, regardless of your situation. Regardless of your situation. Because of Christmas, there's hope. That's what that resonates as we look through this story, how that should fit into each of our lives. So we have this story here, Zechariah and Elizabeth, they're both of the priestly line. That means they have this job to do. They're serving in the temple. They serve when their time comes around when it's there, and we have this example of God using these ordinary older people that are there. They have this pain in their life. They have no children. And that's painful, but particularly for this culture and this age. It was widely taught that children are a blessing of God, so if you don't have any children, then that would say the opposite of what the people thought. So if you didn't have any children, then there was something wrong with you before God, that God did not bless you as he should have. And so that was amplified, and people thought so many different things, and it's not taught in the Bible at all, but it was so sad then. And there was another issue, is that there was a social security system of any kind, so you had children, the children helped you, but also the children were to honor parents, and so that was a way of taking care of you when you got older. So they had no children. Later in the chapter, it says that when she had a child, her shame was removed. And so there's a darkness carried on, and sometimes we look at people and we wonder all kinds of things, and we don't know what it is. Perhaps they went through the pain of a series of miscarriages. Perhaps there was no pregnancy at all whatsoever, and sometimes we can be very flippant and rude in our humor, and we tease people about, well, why don't you have any kids? And maybe they're carrying a very silent and difficult pain. Some of you know that pain that they would have carried. So here they are serving, they're faithful. Interesting, even though they were faithful to God, even though they did, it says he was righteous before God. Or another one says he was right before God. It doesn't mean that he was without sin, but he was obedient. Even though they had prayed for a long time and they didn't get the answer to their prayer, they were still faithful. They still did what needed to be done. And sometimes we will pray and say, God, give me this, take care of this. And he doesn't do it. We get mad and we go a different direction. But they stayed faithful, even though their prayers weren't answered, even though there were disappointment in their life. A couple things. Zechariah, I think is interesting. His name means God remembers. God remembers. And I wonder sometimes if you'd say, hey, God, you remember my name, what it stands for? I'm praying. He's actually praying for a couple things. As a priest, when he went into the temple, he was praying for all the people. He was praying for the forgiveness of all the sins of all the people. But he was also, part of the things they always prayed for was for the Messiah to come. And again, how many years since they'd heard from a prophet? 400 years. He's saying, God, you remember your prayer? But God does remember. Elizabeth's name, it means God is my oath. It's a word for promise. It's saying God has made a promise in her name. Every time it was said, it was a reminder that God keeps his promise. It's therefore to him. And so even though Zechariah and Elizabeth might have thought, God, you're forgetting your promise. The nation of Israel might have forgot their promise. And people today sometimes do think, oh yeah, Jesus is supposed to come back. I don't know that anymore. We lose that hope, that trust that's there. But it is true, God keeps his oath. So waiting is a part of life, and we just need to trust God. When we're in those ways where we're praying and praying, you're praying your whole life, you're praying for direction, and you feel like God is not there, he does remember, and he does keep his oath. We have to understand is his timing is very different from ours. When we live in this broken, fallen world, and we make some pretty bad choices, other people make some bad choices, but God says, I'm still going to keep my promise, even through the midst of all of this brokenness around. And God was orchestrating, and God was planning for just the right time for the Messiah to come. And these two were going to be part of that story. Verse 8, once when Zechariah's division was on duty, and he was serving as a priest before God, and we're going to stop there just a minute. So he was on duty serving as a priest. Now we go to 1 Chronicles and we learn about the priestly duties and how they were set up, and they were organized into different divisions. There was 24 different divisions, all organized and planned. And so they would come to Jerusalem and serve in the temple, and they would come twice a year and they would serve for a week at a time. And then when they get there, there's thousands of priests. When they would get there, when it was their turn to serve, Zechariah would come. He would do everything from cleaning up to preparing for sacrifices, doing them, cleaning up afterwards, getting everything taken care of for all the religious activities that went on for the time he was there. However, there was something special that was done, and that was someone got to go into the holy place, the place that was set aside. And he got to go in the holy place, and he got to go in where the candelabra was and keep it lit. He also got to burn incense, and burning incense was a sign of prayers and worship being offered up to God. And to get to do that was a very special thing. It says his name was chosen by lot. And that's a way we can think of it as like his name was drawn out of a hat. And it was wonderful to get to go to Jerusalem to serve, but to get to go to do that was usually something that only happened once in a lifetime. And so here's this old guy who's waited his whole life, and his name is chosen. And can you imagine his excitement that he finally gets to go in and offer the incense in the holy place before God on behalf of all the people. And so he goes in, and he's ready to do it. He's ready to make that incense. And just recognize, here he is. Even though he's been waiting, even though he's been discouraged in his life, he's still honoring God. And we need to make sure we continue to honor God even when we're waiting. That we're just going to say, God, I'm still going to lift you up. I'm still going to be faithful. Even though circumstances aren't like I want, I'm just going to remain faithful to you. And he does that. Verse 11, while he was in there and he made his incense, offered the incense, says, then an angel of the Lord appeared to him, standing at the right side of the altar of incense. And when Zechariah saw him, he was startled and was gripped with fear. So he's there making that incense offer, and he does this, and the angel appears, and we don't know if it just dramatically appeared, or he came in, maybe he'd been standing there, and Zechariah was so busy focused on what he's doing, he didn't notice he showed up. But he was there, and when he saw him, there's an emphasis on the word startled. Gripped with fear. He was scared to death. He was incredibly frightened. Because he got to just do his thing, and then all of a sudden an angel shows up. No doubt there's a little bit of, what did I do wrong? What did I mess up on? What happened? Because no one has seen an angel or heard from one for so long, but an angel's there. He's scared, going on verse 13. But the angel said to him, we know a little bit later, his name is Gabriel, the messenger angel. Gabriel said to him, do not be afraid, Zechariah. Your prayer has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you are to give him the name John. He will be a joy and delight to you, and many will rejoice because of his birth. For he will be great in the sight of God. So he says, you're going to have a son. You're going to name him this. And he goes on and continues in the next several verses telling about this boy, John. So it's obviously going to be a delight for Zechariah and Elizabeth to have their child. But he said, this child is going to be great in the sight of God. And it tells about this special vow that he's going to have. He's going to be set apart. He's going to be doing some unique things. And he said, many people are going to come back to the Lord as a result of their son, John. And we put those all points together. He's the forerunner of the Messiah coming. And so here's Zechariah going into the temple, offering the incense as a very special honor. He gets this message, you're going to have a child, and this is the beginning of the Messiah to come, and God is working through them. Now, Zechariah should have responded with, yes, the excitement, the thrill of it. But he responded like many of us would respond with, no, you got to be kidding me. Would you do that? You know, someone tells you something so spectacular, you just go, oh, no, I don't know about this. He doubts, he questions. Look at verse 18. Zechariah asked the angel, how can I be sure of this? I'm an old man, my wife was well along in years, and the angel answered, I am Gabriel, I stand in the presence of God, and I have been sent to speak to you and tell you this good news. So he just responds, and you kind of get that a little bit. Why would you do it? But his question is a little strong. Well, how can you assure me that this is really going to happen? It really is a question of not just, I'm shocked, but it's a question of doubt. Are you really capable of doing this? We see in the same chapter, a little bit further on, the same angel Gabriel shows up to a young lady, and he tells her she is going to have a baby, and Mary responds a little bit too. She says, how is this going to happen? I mean, it's the same kind of question. Now, if we look at Zechariah, what happens to him, the angel's a little frustrated with him when he doubts, and he's put in time out. He is. He says, okay, because you doubted me, you're not going to be able to speak for the next 9 months. There's a punishment because you questioned God. But here's Mary, when she says, well, how is this going to happen? She's not put in time out. There's nothing wrong with her, but there's a big difference in the question. Pat Domini, he says, I like how he puts it. He says, I think it's a question of the heart, and God knows the heart. Because one says, how is this really, how can I be sure this will happen? Mary says, how will this happen? One is saying, this can't be. How are you going to prove this out to me? The other one says, wow, how is this going to happen since I'm not even married yet? One was a question trying to understand. The other was a question of doubt and looking back on long ways. In fact, Mary then turned her response down in verse 38. She says, I'm a servant of the Lord. Let it be according to your word. The verse before that, she says, nothing is impossible with God. I think sometimes that happens when we're younger in our faith. We learn about God's word and we just go, yes, this is so exciting. We have our questions. We just go, wow, I'm learning so much. We want to jump into it and learn how it goes. But sometimes when we've been follower for a long time, we get a little calloused. And we can actually say, yeah, right. And how sad that is. We've been a follower for a long time, doing the motions. Have you lost the wonder of prayer, saying, God, I need you to intervene. Would you do something great in this life? Would you? And if he actually answers, would you be shocked? Or is it something you believe God has the power and can do and will do anything? Well, Zechariah questioned. It's interesting because he said you could not speak. We learn at the very end when their baby was delivered, the townspeople all came around, and it says that they signed to him, what are you going to name your son? It didn't say they just said, what are you going to name him? It says they signed to him. So not only was he not able to speak, but he was also not able to hear. For 9 months. That's a timeout. That's saying you're going to take some time. You're going to think about what I just told you. In fact, you're not going to hear anything else for 9 months because you doubted God. You doubted the promise that was given to you. So the last thing he hears is you're going to have the son, he's going to be great, he's going to be wonderful, he's going to work through you. And he says, I don't know about this. He says, you're going to take time to think about this. Now you would think Zechariah is in the holy place, an angel of the Lord appears in the holy place, in the Jerusalem, in the temple. That should be authority enough. But we have this incredible authority of God's word, and sometimes we question and we doubt it, don't we? Well, he comes out of the temple. He's in there longer than normal, and the people are all outside praying. And the tradition was when the priest came out of the temple, he would go to the people and he would bless them because he's been in a special place of prayer. And so he would come out and he would pray a blessing over all of the people, and there was a huge response to that. So here's Zechariah. He's coming out of the temple, and there's nothing. So the people would have thought, oh, something bad happened. I mean, you did something wrong, that God did this, whatever this is to you, but he has to share with them what it is. Now, there's a little part of this story that I think gets a little funny. Can you imagine Zechariah, this guy, coming out and trying to explain everything when he can't talk, can't go on, and I just kind of let my imagination roll, and I think it's funny. So I just thought it would help us to understand this a little bit, and it's Christmas, so we can have a little fun, can't we? So please say yes. All right, so I've asked Andrew, who's up here on our worship team, and Andrew's a school teacher. He's kind of fun. I asked Andrew to come out and help me. Last night I drafted my son-in-law, but you're up here. You can do this, right? Yes. You can do it. You're fun. All right, so Andrew, you're Zechariah. You got the beard?
Thank you.
You look you good look for the part. That's good. All right, so you're Zechariah. You've been in the temple. You just came out. Here's all the people. They're looking at you, looking for a blessing. Look at him like you're looking for a blessing. Yeah, that works. Okay, see. All right, so you're going to bless them, but you can't talk, and so you got to explain to them what happened. All right, so here it is. So you're going to say, I went to the temple, and I was doing the candles. Light all the candles, get all of them. Oh, and it's burning bright, that's good. Okay, now you're going to offer the incense. And it smells good. All right, and you turn around, and there's a huge angel. And you're scared. You're really, 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 really scared. Does he look scared? Okay, he's scared. All right, so then the angel starts talking to you, and now you're telling the people what the angel said. So tell the people that okay, it looks like you're fat and your stomach feels good. All right, it's Elizabeth, not you, Elizabeth. Oh, yeah, you're Elizabeth, all right. They're excited. Did you get that? Oh, that's very good. All right, so Elizabeth's gonna have a baby. All right, and whoa, Zechariah knows American Sign Language. His name is John. Well, that's impressive. Okay, and John's going to be this forerunner of the Messiah to come. He's going to do great things. All right. Okay, thank you. Good job. And by the way, he is still single, ladies. Just want you to know that. He's available after service to talk. All right. Okay, so Zechariah, I don't know, and I imagine there was a lot of frustration, confusion. There had to be some people laughing, but trying to figure out what is going on, that this incredible thing is about to happen. So he goes home, he does a similar thing with Elizabeth, tries to explain it all. We get down, let's read verse number 24. It says, after this, his wife Elizabeth became pregnant and for 5 months remained in seclusion. Now, I don't know why she remained in seclusion. She was there just off by herself, pondering, wondering, thinking, whatever it is. At the end of 5 months, though, she gets a visitor. And the visitor is Mary, her distant cousin from Nazareth, coming all the way down to this place. And Mary spends some time with her. Can you imagine the two of them together? Here's an older lady, pregnant. Here's a young girl who's pregnant, both of them with an incredible message from Gabriel, the angel, of what was to come. That must have been a sweet time. It says they spent 3 months together, and then Mary goes back home, and after she goes back home, then the time comes for the baby to be delivered. Go down to verse 57. And when it was time for Elizabeth to have her baby, she gave birth to her son. Her neighbors and relatives heard that the Lord had shown her great mercy, and they shared her joy. So the baby was born. And then the verses that follow is the ones we talked about, where they signed to him, to John, or to Zechariah, what are you going to name him? Are you going to name him after yourself? And he gets a piece of paper and he writes down, he says, no, his name is John. And he was obedient to what God said. Because he was obedient, he was able to speak and he was able to hear once again. The name John means God has been gracious. Now that's an appropriate name to choose for Zechariah and Elizabeth, that God was gracious to him, but it was a name given by God for him. Because the message of this man as he was going to grow up, John, was that God is gracious to us all. He was gracious to this couple, but he was going to be gracious to all the people and truly gracious to us today to say our Messiah is coming. There's hope for each one of us. There's a promise for each one of us. So the birth of John was one that brought hope. There's a guy, his name is Robert McKenzie, and he's a teacher at the University of Washington, not the one in St. Louis, Washington University. And he said he had this custom where he would, go to work every day, but he realized there was a bus stop really close to his house, and there was just a few stops that took him to university, and he thought, I could ride the bus every day and actually be convenient. Because I don't have to worry about where I park, where I go, just a very simple routine. So his custom was he would get on the bus, ride to work every day, and he'd ride home from work, and it was just a very simple thing. He did it for a long time. There was one day he overslept, and so he's running. If you have one of those days, he's rushing, and he rushes, and he thinks he's going to miss the bus, and he gets there just barely in time. He runs and jumps on the bus and starts off, and he's exhausted. He looks around, and he goes, whoa, a bunch of other people must be late today too, because all the regulars weren't on his bus. And they go and they make the first few stops, and people are getting on, and it's not the same people that usually get on. He thinks, wow, everybody is missing the bus today. They're all running late. And he continues on, and the bus driver then makes a wrong turn. He thinks, well, the bus driver's really confused today, and the bus driver starts going a different direction. And it says he sat on there for a few miles before all of a sudden he realized what the problem was. What was it? Yes, he got on the wrong bus himself. But he said it just dawned on him how he just started to think about it, how for the longest time, how he thought everybody else had messed up. Everybody else was doing wrong. He was obviously in the right. He was doing everything wrong, but the people around him, his friends were wrong, the bus driver's wrong, everything else is there. And haven't we been thinking that at some time in our life? I'm being faithful. I'm doing the right thing. I'm honoring my wife, my husband. I'm doing the right stuff. I'm going to work, and everybody else is messed up. Everybody else has an attitude problem. Everybody else is going the wrong direction. And then we think, God, you're supposed to be driving this bus, and you're even going the wrong direction. What is wrong? Sometimes we can get the best of intentions, think this is the right way, but the truth is, we peel off the surface, and we're actually pretty self-serving. It's my education and my job and my money and my marriage and my family and what I want. And we cover it with, God, I'm still doing what you said to do. I'm still praying those prayers, but something's not right internally. And I hope today, as we begin the Christmas story of hope, that first of all, we step back and examine, am I being faithful? And am I going the right direction? Am I really serving the way God wants me to? Am I serving with this heart of humility that we can say, God, whatever it is you desire, I will do. And I'm going to honor you. It starts with that. And then we continue to say, God, I'm going to be faithful and honor you no matter what. And we wait for God's timing upon us. Well, look at those names again. Zechariah, it means God remembers. Just the truth for us is that he sees you. God sees you. God knows you. He knows where you're at. He's a part of your life. He remembers what's going on in your life. Let's read a couple of verses together. This baby that was going to be born of Mary, our Messiah, grew up, and he said this in Matthew 28:20. Would you read it with me? And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. Jesus is with you. Another one from Hebrews chapter 13. Would you read this with me? God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. God remembers. The name Elizabeth says, God is my oath. Just a thing simple for us is that God is faithful. God keeps his word. God keeps his promises. The same promise he made to Abram way back when, the same promise he made to Adam that the Messiah was coming. He keeps his promise. It's not always in our timetable, not always in the direction that we want it to be, but he keeps his promises. 1 John 1:9 is a verse we've read often. Let's read it again. It says, if we confess our sins, he is faithful and just and will forgive us our sins and purify us from all unrighteousness. So he is faithful. We aren't always faithful, but God always is. Another part of this verse is this whole idea of where confession, he's going to forgive and give grace. And the name John means God is gracious. And just a reminder to us is that he gives grace. God gives grace. He's faithful to it. He remembers us. We need to do our part. We need to surrender him. We need to confess. We need to say, God, you're my Lord. I'm going to honor you. And when we do that, he gives us this grace for each one of us. So Christmas is a time of hope. Today, you may feel honestly like George Bailey. You may be at that point where you feel like this is the end of it all, and everybody else is talking about this stuff, but I don't have any hope. And you can have today. The story of Christmas is real and it's true, and God loves you, and no matter the circumstances around you, God has a blessing for you. And so we're going to ask you to respond at the end and receive this gift. Maybe you've been a follower for a long time. And maybe you're feeling like Zechariah and Elizabeth. God, I'm doing the right stuff. It's there, but something's empty and there's this pain and I don't know where you're at. And God says, I've got true hope for you too. Maybe you're just part of the nation of Israel or this group of people who are saying, God, where are you in all this? Where are you in the craziness of this world that we live in right now? Are you there? Are you real? And he says, oh, I'm very real. And Jesus is returning. And can you get your hope restored and renewed that even in the craziness of people, and again, first century Herod the Great, he was brutal, it was awful, it was a horrible time, but God was still working through that plan. And can you get your eyes off of the craziness of this world and the politics and all the stuff around you and get your eyes up on God and say, God, you're still working through this. And you remember your promise is real and your grace is real. So Christmas, because of Christmas, there's hope, regardless of your situation. Regardless of it, there's hope for you. God, thank you for this story that you put in here for us to hear and to understand and learn. I just thank you for what you did in orchestrating this whole plan for Messiah to come for us. Father, there's people in this room who don't know you at all, and I pray that you would move in their hearts today. Father, that this person would see you and know you, and they would just accept this gift. Just take that simple step of saying, God, I don't know, I don't understand, but I want to learn. And Father, for the person in the room who is so discouraged and so disheartened, and maybe full of fear, I pray that you'd move in their heart and they would understand your truth. Father, give them your hope today. And Father, maybe we've just been going through life callous and we've lost the joy and we've lost the wonder. And our prayers have become very flat, and we're not praying, expecting, and believing that you can do some incredible things. Father, I pray that you would restore hope and joy. You know where each one of us is at. And because of Christmas, because of the gift of Jesus, God, would you restore and renew and refresh today? I pray that refresh our relationships around us because of our hope in you. And it's in Jesus we pray.
What's up, guys? Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to check out today's sermon. If you have any questions about anything that you've heard today, please feel free to contact us through the links below at harvesterchristian.org. We would love to hear from you. And if anything that you've heard today has really impacted your life and helped to reveal a clear picture of who Jesus is, make sure to share this video with your friends and family. Blast it on social media so more and more people can hear the message of Jesus Christ. And one last thing, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can get notified as soon as we post new sermons. We love you guys. We believe in you. Have a great week. God bless.